Welcome to the Holding Hope podcast. My name is Pam Orr, and I am the Executive Director for Fellowship Housing, a nonprofit that empowers single moms. The Holding Hope podcast is a space for courageous single moms to share their journeys. Through their stories, we will explore the life-changing power of hope. Each of these women inspires me, and I know they will inspire you as well. I'm so glad you've decided to listen. Well, welcome to the Holding Hope podcast. My name is Pam Orr, and I'll be your host today. I'm the Executive Director for Fellowship Housing, a nonprofit in the Chicagoland area that serves single moms and their children. I believe to my core that single moms are among the hardest working people around. I'm so excited for you to meet today's guest, Samantha. I met Samantha back in 2020, and I will tell you, I first fell in love with her son, Kai. Very excited for you to meet Samantha and to hear her journey. I know it's going to inspire you. Welcome, Samantha.
Thank you. Thank you.
So on the screen here, we have a picture of you and Kai when you were part of Fellowship Housing. Tell us a little bit. I mean, I am not kidding. When I first saw Kai, he is a bundle of energy and joy. Let's just start there. Tell us a little bit about Kai.
Well, the bundle of energy gets up bright and early at 6 a.m. He's proud of himself when he sleeps in a little bit on the weekends, but it's such a blessing to have such a positive kid and just such a happy, he's so happy, and that's just so contagious. I've had people point out to me, his smile just genuinely lights up a room, and he just has the ability, his teachers have said it, he has the ability to just turn bad days into good days. And I think especially with being a single mom, that's so important, because he not only is he just a physical reminder, looking at pictures of him, but he's there to be everything's fine, Mom. We got this. We can do whatever, he's just so happy. And now he's in sports more.
Great.
He's growing, and it's so cool to see their personalities develop, but their sports and their physical activity. And he tackles people now. I don't know about sports, so I don't really know much about football, but I do know Tackle Tuesday was yesterday, and he likes to be active, and it's just really cool seeing kids grow into their personalities and
for sure
who they are.
Yeah. What a joy. Would it be fair to say that he really is the reason that that you stepped in the doors of Fellowship Housing?
Absolutely.
Back in 2020. Let's go back, if you don't mind. Let's jump back to, there's a period of your life when you said it started to get a bit chaotic. I think you were at Indiana University, correct? Would you take us back there and tell us about, even before when you were accepted into Indiana, what your dreams and hopes were, and then kind of what happened?
Yeah. So originally I've always just been passionate about kids and working with kids. Originally I wanted to be a social worker. Childless me wanted to save the world and help all the children out there who didn't have the best living situations. So I did start my college going to school for social work. I had a little, surprise, a beautiful surprise. A few weeks before my senior year, I had my child. I did still graduate, which, let me tell you, there's nothing harder than going back to school 2 weeks after giving birth and working full-time at a restaurant. And then you also have to have a full-time internship that's unpaid. So unfortunately, I do think the internship that I had, just it being unpaid and so exhausting having a newborn, I think that's what made me take a step back from social work. I did start grad school, but it's a lot, going through college and raising a kid and working, and I was not in a healthy relationship at all. So what did I decide to do but move across the country to Las Vegas? So
what was in Las Vegas? What took you across the country to Las Vegas?
My ex's family lives there. So honestly, when I think back, I do not regret it, because I do have a close relationship with my son's grandparents on his dad's side. I love his grandma so much. He sees his grandparents. They have a great relationship. So I'm happy about that. But we were just wanting to be around family. My family lives in Illinois. So when we were in Indiana, we were like, all right, we can move to Illinois or we can move to Vegas to find our village to raise, Kai with. And Vegas did not work, unfortunately. But I think that was also just the relationship was at its end. And it was time for that relationship to end. Unfortunately, his father also felt like that was the ending point for being a dad. So we moved out to Illinois, and that was where we slowly but surely have started to create this life that we have right now. So
can you tell me a little bit more about what brought about the ending of that relationship? What was living in Las Vegas like for you and Kai on a daily basis?
Well, first, I think the end of the relationship really did start back in Indiana. But I think when you're in a relationship, you're so blinded sometimes. And coming from, my parents are still married. They've been married my whole life. I've seen that. And I think for our generation, divorce and not having two-parent household, it used to be frowned upon. I think now it's becoming so much more common that there are single moms, and it's not like I'm a horrible person out there. But I think I was self-conscious of people judging me for being a single mom. Now I'm proud of it. But so I stayed with him. There was a lot of dishonesty and, nitty gritty details. I don't need to go into detail for those, but the relationship ended in Indiana. I was so wanting to make it work for Kai. And that was something that I always said I was like, I can't tell the future if me and my ex will stay together, but something I know is he's always going to be a dad. Even if we break up, he's going to be a great dad. And man, did I eat those words, because unfortunately, we moved into Vegas, and sometimes you just can't fix a relationship. And I thought a move would fix it. Sure. I thought maybe having some babysitters would take some stress off of us so we could, go on dates and, find our relationship again, because we really only had a relationship with a child involved. So it wasn't really working.
So you came back to Illinois where your family was. And if I recall, just from knowing you and you sharing your story in the past, you worked incredibly long hours. And tell me about your living situation when you moved back to Illinois. What was that like?
Man, I actually just got reminded of it on Facebook today because I had posted a Facebook status asking for a babysitter. And I just think back to that time. So my parents had space in their house. And so we did move back to my parents' house where I grew up. And originally I was just working at a restaurant. So I was working anywhere from 40 to 70 hours a week, just give or take the week and how many hours I could get. I was working open to close Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I really wasn't getting to see my son on the weekends really. And nights I had a nannying job where I would bring my child to work. So I was able to see him during the week when I would go babysit, but I was also paid very, very little, I think, about that first nannying gig. And you kind of just accept what you can in the circumstances. And so it was nice that I could bring him to work. But I would get off work at 4 and go right to work 5 to 10. And that was Monday through Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, it was lunch and dinner shifts and clothes. So I worked a lot. And my parents helped out as much as they could. But I didn't want to take away from their ability to be a grandparent. And I think when you watch your grandkids too much and on too much of a basis, it turns it into a chore. And so I didn't want to have my parents watching him every weekend, because then they don't get to be the fun grandparents every week. Sure. They're being parents instead of grandparents. Sure. And so my mom was like, well, you should try getting a job at a daycare. Because me and Kai have the umbilical cord has not been cut. So me and Kai have a very, very, very close relationship, and we do not like to be separated, even though we're working on it. So she was like, work in a daycare, he'll be in the same facility as you. It'll be a different classroom, but you at least can get the feel for like a 9 to 5 job without Kai there with you all the time. So that brought me into working full time at a daycare and then nights and weekends at a restaurant.
So when did you rest?
Never, literally never. It was, when I think about it, I was so just going through the motions of work. And I'm proud of myself for doing it for a few years. I'm just so happy that we were able to come out of that, because I have a lot of single mom friends who have not come out of that, who still are struggling to find babysitters, who still are struggling to find a full-time job that fits being you can't have every type of full-time job as a single mom and give your child the love and attention and affection and guidance that they need. So I'm just so thankful that we were able to come out of it. And I'm thankful that I had my family there to help us through there. My sisters, when I tell you, my sisters watched him so much. And my younger sister, she was actually in high school still when we moved back to my parents' house. So her junior and senior year of high school, she babysat a lot and helped us out a lot. So I'm thankful we were able to. I think about some people who don't have those family support. And that's another reason why I think that the program fellowship housing is just so important, because I'm someone who had family support, but not everybody does. So this program, it's just so amazing. And the support it provides for single moms, I can't even begin to talk about it enough. So it just...
Well, let's transition into that a little bit. You said multiple times, I'm so grateful that, how did you say it? You didn't say I escaped from that, but that I moved forward from that.
That I came out of it.
You came out of it. That was the words you used. So let's talk about that. At what point did you learn of fellowship housing?
I was going to say, how did I come out of it too? COVID was a beautiful thing. So I found out about fellowship before COVID, actually.
You just said, and I don't think I've ever heard anybody say this, COVID was a beautiful thing. You need to explain that a little bit more.
COVID changed our life and I know there's a lot of people out there who it didn't change good for them. And it took time for it to change. So I originally had found out about fellowship housing, I think like 2 months before COVID hit, the beginning of 2020. My mom was doing Habitat for Humanity, and she met a mom who they, hit it off. And my mom was just telling her that my parents were in a really struggling position where they're trying to help me become independent and be this mom without enabling and letting me live rent free and just getting comfortable living with my parents. They wanted to help me be an adult with a kid, but financially it's almost impossible sometimes.
Well, let's pause right there because I really do want to have you keep going on that story of how you heard about fellowship housing. But you've mentioned several times the challenge of you were working full-time. You were working actually 2 jobs, almost 2 full-time jobs. You were working full-time during the week, and then on the weekend you were working open to close shifts at the restaurant, correct? And
how did that change?
Well, no. And my point is, and still you were not able to make ends meet. And additionally, you had a community around you that was able to assist with childcare. So, I guess my head goes to, and there's not really a question in here, but my head goes to, the single moms that are out there that are listening to this that are saying, my goodness, you had some things that I didn't have that kept you off the streets in your community and your parents. And you seem incredibly grateful for that. So I just mainly wanted to call that out for those that are listening that are going, I didn't have that. And with hopes that they'll listen, because then you came upon fellowship housing. So keep going on the story with how your mom learned.
It all takes, I also just want to say it takes time. A lot of that, you have to really sit down and think, okay, so how can and I did with my family and my friends, how can I come out? How can I get a better job? My sister would send me notes in her phone of different jobs I could get. I had a college degree, but again, you can't get any job with a parent. You want to have a job that would be fine if I have to leave for a doctor's appointment. And so COVID really forced me to look beyond and look outside of that box. COVID shut down the daycare, so I lost that job. First, I got accepted to fellowship housing. Let me
Okay, back up.
I got accepted to fellowship housing at the beginning of March 2020. So like right before the world shut down. Super excited. I'm about to have my first apartment without, my ex, without parents, without another adult. This is great. And then I lose my full-time job. And then a day later, they announce, as I'm serving a table, they point up to the TV and they're like, look at that. And it says, Illinois restaurants are shutting down. And I'm like, there goes my second income. So something I also want to bring up that nobody told me about was unemployment. So I did not know that unemployment was a thing until it became that big thing in COVID. So when it originally happened, I was like, all right, well, my job's going to let me answer the phones at the restaurant. So I'll just that's all I can do. The daycare was closed. So they let my son come to work with me and I answered carry out orders for 2 weeks, 45 to 65 hours a week, as much as I could. And because I chose to do that instead of accept you can't serve and you can't work at a daycare, I didn't get unemployment because of that. So
there's the other challenge, I think. There are resources that are available either specifically for single moms or, like in your situation, unemployment. It's difficult to navigate all of that. And as a busy mom, single mom, it's very, very difficult to even find the time to explore those options, let alone. Okay, so let's keep going.
But when you start, and that's another thing I want to touch on, when you start the amount of resources the world has is insane. If you need a question about anything, just look on, resources. So
we have Google.
Yeah, that really, finding out that there were resources out there, finding out I couldn't get unemployment, that's what made me start to search. There's got to be something else. There's got to be something. So then remote positions became a very big, hot thing around COVID. And so the program when I was in the program, they were like, hey, we have a temp agency that's a remote temp agency. So I started with them and they paired me up with this job that I have right now. I eventually became a permanent employee. And this job really is this job is how I came out of it. I've had this job. It's a partially remote, partially in office. I have an absolutely amazing boss who is so understanding and so flexible and so accommodating. And I'm able to be a very involved single mom while still working a full-time job. My son doesn't, on summers, he sees it. He doesn't, when he comes home from school, I work for 1 more hour usually, and then I'm done. So it's such an amazing thing to finally be in a position where I can enjoy my son's life with him outside of school, to incredible. Not have to go to work on weeknights, to be able to go to his football practices and to make weekend plans with my family and friends, to not be like, well, it's a weekend, I'm working, it's really amazing. So
that's incredible.
I still realized I needed more income though, because there's just never enough money in the world. So we started babysitting more on the side for date nights and weekend trips for families. And that I bring my son to work for that. And that really, it's not even work for him because he gets to go play with kids he's known for years now. So these are his friends that he gets to go play with. But that's really how you're making it. Yeah. How you're surviving.
So even though you spent 2 years with fellowship housing and you made some incredible, what's the word I'm trying to think?
Financial
advancements.
Yes.
So you left after 2 years, credit card debt free, nothing there. You paid off $20,000 in student loans, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And you saved about $7,000. And I think if I remember correctly, you increased your salary about $9,000.
My salary, honestly, it was probably more than that. My salary increased, but my credit score increased too. I raised my credit score over 100 points. So
which is incredible.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just take a little caveat and talk about those 2 years.
Okay.
Where you were a part of fellowship housing. Piece of cake, easy?
No, opposite.
Tell us about what was that like?
Would I go back and do it again? Absolutely. 5 million times over again. Absolutely. 100%. Was it difficult? Yes.
So you got the both and. You got
Yes.
incredibly difficult,
but very rewarding, very fulfilling. I'm super thankful that I did it at the age my son was at. Now, I don't know if I could have done the program with a 9-year-old boy who
sure you could have.
asks for no, because he just so sweetly after practice last night was like, "Can we get Little Caesars, Mom?" And like, of course we're gonna get Little Caesars because you just were in practice.
Yeah.
I could do it now,
Sure.
but the age he was at was a great age for being in the program. He wasn't asking to go to McDonald's. He was 4 and 5 at that program, so he wasn't asking to go to McDonald's all the time or for toys all the time. So I think if I had a child that was at a different age, I think that would be a struggle. But
so let's start with the hard, the heart of the program. Do you remember what it felt like? I assume it was Heather that called you and said, "Welcome. We'd love to have you be a part of Fellowship Housing." Do you remember initially just what that moment felt like, and what was going on inside of you?
I sure do, because I had, and Heather might even remember it. I bite my lip when I'm really, really nervous, and so I was sitting there just listening to Heather and Lisa talk, and I'm just biting my lip, and then she just so sweetly hands over this acceptance letter. And I'm like, you couldn't have told me that at the beginning of the meeting.
They buried the lead.
Yeah, I'm like, I've been sitting here like really thinking I'm not getting in because it was just such a great speech that I was like, there's no way this is my acceptance. But I was just so happy, so ready to, like I said, I wanted to create independence away from my family without, my parents enabling us so much. And so I was just finally ready to get out of their house and just show them. I have 6 siblings who I compare myself to way too much. I was ready to stop being their worst kid and move out of their house and show my parents and my family that like, I'm not just a single mom living in my parents' basement. Like I can do this. I can be a single mom. I can provide him with a stable life just like 2 married people can. And I was just so ready at that point to start the process. Man, was it a process.
So tell us about the process. Tell us what it was like jumping into the budgeting, jumping into
everything,
the guidelines.
I don't know about other, Lisa was my advocate, and I can't even say enough about her. Lisa made it much easier because of how she is as a person and just how she explains things, and she's not judgmental, and she really just genuinely listens to any problem you have. So having Lisa guide me through that definitely helped it. But it's a hard budget to follow when you are not used to budgeting. And I think that's a big thing for people. Budgeting now, the past 2 years, I feel like has gotten bigger. I've heard it more. But when I joined the program, I was like, what? I don't have to follow. What even is a budget? So it's hard at first, but once you get into that routine of, okay, I'm sending all my bank statements, I'm sending my receipts, we're going through this, and why did you spend this, and what did you? It was hard, but I needed that, and also like I'm the worst grocery shopper, and Lisa really held me accountable for that when she'd be like, what is this? What is, I still impulse buy sometimes when I shouldn't at Walmart, but so it was definitely it's not easy to save your money. It's not easy to raise a kid and not buy him everything. I think I also have very strong, my family likes to call it single parent guilt. And I feel guilty, and it's something I'm always, despite everyone telling me it's not your fault, don't feel guilty. I had a child with someone who I didn't know enough to know that he wouldn't stick around. And so I have that guilt because nobody chose to have the child besides me. And I'm so thankful for Kai. I love him so much, but I have guilt that his dad is not there. So I think a lot of parents, when they're in that situation, they like to make up for it with toys and McDonald's. And, you're sad that your dad didn't call on your birthday. So let's go out to eat. So you can't do that in the program. You can't just blow your money. And it's hard at sometimes when you're like, man, I just want to spend some money. But then when you think about, I'm going to be debt free possibly. And I'm going to have money in I'm going to have a savings account. I'm going to have money in my savings account. Watching your bank account grow through the 2 years. I had never seen my bank account that high. And so it was amazing to see.
That's
really,
incredible.
really great. It was hard, but worth it.
So clearly your financial situation completely turned around during the 2 years, and because of your hard work. I mean, we can set the parameters, Fellowship Housing can set the parameters, but it is you living it out day by day, saying no to that sweet face and, and making the hard choices. So, man, that's incredible. And really amazed at what you were able to accomplish. Beyond just financial, which is huge, what other impacts did it have on you, but also on Kai? Did you see an impact on Kai after being a part of Fellowship Housing?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things, and this is where I'm probably going to start crying.
Well, we've got the Kleenexes here.
Something that we gained from Fellowship Housing was one of the girls we keep in touch with, actually, her name's Brianna. I have never had a friendship quite like that, where you can just literally anything I could call her for. And so I think Kai seeing, she lived on the first floor and I lived on the third floor. So I think Kai seeing his mom have a healthy friendship where anytime you need something, she absolutely, if I needed a babysitter, and vice versa. I watched her children a lot for her too. I still do. It was such an experience. And for Kai, as an only child, he started to get the sibling vibe. I felt like, her kids and him, they really bonded and became sibling. I mean, when you live in a building and you're with each other often like that, they have such a great, and they still do. We just saw them a few weeks ago and I went over, and then I wasn't supposed to take the kids. And I was like, can we have a sleepover? And she's like, what? You didn't even plan this. And I'm like, can they just come home with me, please? Like, I miss them. And so it's just Kai to not only see his mom have a healthy friendship where boundaries are respected. If you need help, if I need help, we're there. I think that was really, really great for him to see in the program, and for him to learn how to have, those friends. That was where I really think it was a big friendship for us. And it was at a good age for Kai where he, he needed friends too, and I needed friends. So I think that the support that being in a building with other single moms, I think that's a huge, huge, huge thing. And it taught me that like, I used to be afraid. I still sometimes am. I used to be afraid to ask for help. I still, again, sometimes I don't like to do it, but she's like, just ask me. If you want to go to the grocery store alone, just ask me, Sam. I'll watch him so you can go peacefully to Walmart. And so I think learning that there's people that will do stuff for you, and she's not expecting anything, she's not expecting money back or anything like that. So it was just really nice to have a friendship like that, and for Kai to see that friendships like that you
were expanding your community, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you had a very core community in your family, but your community is expanding.
Our village has gotten so big.
That's
and
fantastic.
Even bigger now, living where we live. So
you mentioned, and it's a common theme that I hear as I have the opportunity to sit across the table from these incredible women. It is a common theme that many, particularly before coming into the doors of Fellowship Housing, but even after, have a hard time asking for help. Why do you think that is? Do you think that's unique to single moms for a certain reason, or why do you think that is?
I don't know if it's just single moms, because I know my sister has a hard time asking for help too, or if it's certain personalities, or maybe it's more common in single moms. I definitely, I think with being a single mom, I think one of the reasons it is common like that, I'm trying to put my words in.
You're fine.
you're embarrassed sometimes. And I think even still now, I'm getting better now, but it's like I'm embarrassed sometimes to have to ask for help, because I feel like when you ask, like, hey, can you watch Kai? Can you help with Kai? People are like, I don't want to do, like, in my head, I just always think people don't want to do that, which is not the case. People are like totally fine helping. So I think that, but I also think my mentality has changed a lot since the program, but I used to be like, well, asking for help is a sign of weakness. Asking for help means I can't do it on my own. No, you can do it on your own, but you don't have to do it on your own. Like, even though I can drive Kai to and from every practice and game and sports and school, I don't have to. And he might have a more fun time if I, let him go Thursday with his friend after school because I have to do something.
Yeah.
And so I think people think it's a sign of a weakness, but I also think it's something that's kind of internal with people. And
Sure.
Unfortunately, until you get to a point where you can be comfortable asking for help, it's like you got two options.
Right.
You can feel self-conscious that you're a single mom and not ask for help, or you can ask for help and find out if your village is as strong as you think it is,
I think as I hear you talking, we talked earlier about just the incredible weight that you carry as a single mom in terms of time, right? So there's a shortage of time. You're working full time during the week. You're working on the weekends. There's a shortage of money. There's a shortage of self-confidence and potentially community and support. And so I think one of the things I find great joy in hearing as women come and join fellowship housing is they begin to rediscover ways to capture time and money and community, and that they don't have to carry the burden alone. So you're just another perfect example of that. You mentioned Lisa, working with you in the program in fellowship housing, and the critical support that she provided. And you talked about can you talk to me about, was there any specific moment you can recall or piece of advice that Lisa gave you that has really stuck with you?
Let me think about that. Me and Lisa touched on a lot of topics. There was a lot of phone calls where she really helped me through. I think the biggest thing that Lisa helped me to realize, and that I'm so thankful for, is that I don't need to compare myself to my siblings. That's something that, like, I wasn't gonna cry.
It's okay.
It's normal, though, to compare yourself to friends and family. It's normal to compare yourself, but Lisa really helped me to understand that I'm doing a great job, and she helped me be able to say that more openly. One day, I'm very, very hard on myself. I'm very critical on myself, and I had said something negative about myself, and she's like, Samantha, how you talk to yourself, would you say this to Kai, or would you say this to a 7-year-old Samantha? And I'm like, no. And she's like, then stop saying it to yourself. Like, you are such a strong mom. And I think sometimes you need to hear that to really believe it, that you can do this. And I think that was the biggest thing, because especially most of these, not all these women, some of these women have gone through the transition of becoming a single mom years prior. Some women, are getting divorced and then going right into the program. Some women have years that they've been a single mom and they go into the program. For me, I was still healing from a very, very toxic relationship where my self-esteem was torn down. So to hear from someone that, like, you're doing an awesome job as a person, as a mom, as a female, like, I think that's really what Lisa, she's just such an encouraging and positive person. Yeah. And when I say she changed my life, I really mean that, because she changed my mentality and she changed how I viewed myself. She taught me, that I am a great mom, and being a single mom is nothing to be ashamed of. It really is not. Amen. I'm like, I wish I could go back a few years and change my mentality then, because I could have changed other women's mentality too. But I'm doing great. Like, and I love being a single mom because me and my son like have such a close bond that I'm like, if I had stayed with his dad, not only would we not have this close bond, but he would be seeing an unhappy mom. He would be seeing a mom cry every night. He'd be seeing a mom fight with his dad. And that's not a life any child should live. So I'm just so thankful that our life is where it is. And Lisa, I think she really just changed my entire mentality. And that's going to lead into my future and Kai's future. And I think Kai's future is being a parent too, and
I wish everyone, and I know we're video recording this as well, but I wish everyone, even those who are listening in the car, could see the look on your face when you just said, I am doing a good job and I am not ashamed to be a single mom. That is huge. So as you look forward, you came into fellowship housing and you had some goals, and you really slayed those. You did a great job. You graduated, ended up in an apartment of your own. You've had some hiccups along the way as life comes along, but tell me where you're at right now, and what are some goals as you look to the future?
Right now, we just recently moved. And originally I was not the happiest that we had to move, but I'm just so thankful now that we are where we are. We live in Lombard, which is an amazing area. The schools are great. Our support is amazing. His teachers, just everybody is amazing at the school. And we've really developed some good friendships. I had on like the second day of school when we moved to Lombard, a mom had come up to me and she was like, "Are you Kai's mom?" And I was like, "Oh God, what'd he do?" She's like, "No, nothing. But like my son came home from school yesterday and said there's a new student named Kai and he loves him and wants to hang out with him." And that was where our friendships began, was really the second day of school. We had just moved to the area and they've just grown since then. And it's so nice to have the majority naturally of Kai's friends' parents are married. And that was always something in the past that I had been kind of self-conscious of, is my son being friends with kids that have married parents, because questions come up and questions are coming up so much now. But I'm fine answering them now. And his friends' parents are just so amazing. I mean, I had to go babysit before school one day this week. And I was like, how am I going to do this? Because I babysit 30 minutes away and Kai has to go to school. And one of the moms was like, "Oh, just drop him off to me and he can hang out at the house and I'll drive him to school." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you so much." And one day I was stuck getting an oil change. They had forgotten about me, by the way, at the oil change. I was there for 8 hours.
No, you were not.
I swear a car salesman came up to me and was like, "They're not changing your oil. They forgot about you. I'm going to go yell at them." And sure enough, they came out and they're like, "So it's going to be free. We're really sorry, but we did forget about you." But anyway, I had texted a mom and I was like, "I'm stuck and I can't drive because my car is in the car dealership." So she picked him up for me. And so it's nice to have people that not only I trust, but I can rely on. And it makes living as a single mom so much easier and so much less anxiety ridden, to know that if I'm ever stuck in traffic or God forbid I get a car accident or something like that, that's something that as a single mom, you always think of those things, because who's going to take care of your kid? Who's going to pick them up from school? Who's going to do these things if I am hurt or incapable? And so knowing that we do have that village, it's amazing. The sports out there he loves. I just can't say enough about Lombard, the town. I'm so thankful that this is really where we've created our life. And, before the program, my parents put into my head, you need to think about where you want to live to plant your roots. Where do you want to raise your son? Because you can't keep moving around. You've lived in Indiana, you've lived in Vegas, and you've lived in Crystal Lake, Illinois. You got to find a place and you got to stick, because it's not good for kids to have instability and move around. And so then I joined the program and I liked Schaumburg. I really did. But unfortunately, Cook County is just
it's expensive,
super expensive. And, the schools are decent the schools are good out there. there was no perk to us living
Sure.
living there. My family was an hour away. It really, it didn't, but I found out about Lombard, and it's perfect. It takes me 30 minutes to drive from my apartment to downtown Chicago, which is where my sisters live. And those are, my
That's
best
wonderful.
friends. So it's just,
So you
it's
found your
great.
people.
Yes.
You found your place.
Yep.
And you really have found your voice.
Mhm.
Again, I go back to you saying, I can do it. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm not ashamed of being a single mom. You're a great mom. I look at that,
Thank
look at
you.
Kai and the joy that is in his face. And
Thank you.
it is very clear that little boy, not so little anymore, 9 years old
He's
now.
not. When I
Yeah.
woke him up this morning, his feet peeked out from under the blanket. And I'm like,
It happens. Yeah.
those feet are huge.
Yeah.
Those are not yours.
Yeah. That happens. One final thing. I know that there are single moms that are listening. What would you want to say to them about your journey? What would you want to say to them about their journey?
Don't give up. It's hard. It's hard to not give up. And there are days where I still fall to the ground crying. Like, how am I supposed to keep doing this, raising a kid on my own? And, how am I supposed to do this? But you can. Where there's a will, there's a way. I say that all the time, and Kai says it now all the time too. Where there's a will, there's a way. Any problem that God puts in your path, He's putting it in your path for a reason, whether it's to make you stronger or to make you realize that you can do something or to better your life. None of it's easy. Life is not easy, but it's so worth it when you give it your all. And I don't know,
Yep.
keep chugging, keep trying. There are days where everyone, how am I supposed to do this? But those kids they need you, to keep trying. And Kai, if I'm happy, Kai is happy. And so if you're happy, your kids are happy most of the time.
Let me add one that you said multiple times, and then we'll close. Ask for help.
Yeah.
And ask for help.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Ask for help at your kids' schools. That's a big thing. I had a meeting. My son has ADHD, so it's a whole nother thing that we throw into there. But I had talked to his teacher last year, and I was like, are there parent classes? Like, are there support groups for moms with energetic kids? And, because I need that. And she's like, oh, absolutely. And I was like, I want to take a class on how to be a good parent for a child with ADHD. It's not for the weak. There's a lot of questions and I don't know how to answer them. And so I was like, and she's like, absolutely. There's classes, there's support groups. You can go into therapy, get a therapist for how to be a better parent.
Yeah.
So asking for help and looking up resources, whatever problem you have, there's probably an answer and a program that can help you get the answer.
Well, Samantha, I just want to thank you for taking the time today to share your story, to share your hard-earned lessons along the way and the way that you've grown. I see a determined, tenacious, humble mom sitting in front of me, and it's been an honor to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pam.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for tuning in to the Holding Hope podcast. If you enjoyed our conversation today, would you consider joining this community that loves to support single moms? Would you follow us on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple? If you know of a single mom, she may be a family member, someone that you've bumped into at church or at school. You may be her only lifeline to support. Would you reach out? And would you invite her to check out Fellowship Housing? And finally, if you'd like to learn more about Fellowship Housing, you can find us at fhcmoms.org, on Facebook, or on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining in today. Have a great day.